Hi, my name is Jonathan. The focus of this class is on twists. You'll sometimes hear yoga teachers refer to twisting out your spine like a wet dishcloth. I used to say that a lot, and then I was doing the dishes, and then I rinsed out a wet dishcloth, and I was like, oh my God, I don't ever want to rinse my organs out like a wet dishcloth. So I twist now a little less than I used to, and the focus being to just try to give more space for the organs. There are some important principles to twists. What differentiates a twist from just turning your body is that either your shoulders or your hips have to stay fixed. So one or the other. And then it's helpful to have a long spine, so not necessarily a straight spine, but one where the natural curvatures of your spine, particularly your low back, is slightly arched as you twist. And then finally to initiate the twist from the base and move up. And interestingly, the low back actually doesn't twist very much. There's more twist in your thoracic spine, your upper back, and then also there's way more twist in your neck. That's why you can move so much. But we won't talk for very long anymore. Let's just jump right into the practice. So start standing. And then stand, place your hands to your hips. And again, differentiating between turning and twisting, stabilize your hips, bend your knees a little bit, and move your hips back slightly so you get a slight little arch in your low back. And then bring your arms in front of you. Hold opposite elbows for genie arms. Close your eyes so you take the external visual component out of the twist. And on an exhale, twist to your left. As you twist to the left, notice that your hips, particularly your right hip, is just like, hey, can I come too? And you have to be like, no, right hip, your job is to stay home. Left hip gets to see what's going on, but the action gets to be in the shoulders and of course the elbows. And the reality is that you don't actually twist that far. And if you can see from my position here, this is about the maximum, keeping the right hip back and the hips fixed. If I just turn the whole body, of course I can twist if the right hip goes further and I take some of the twist into my knees, but that's not the point. Return back to center and twist over towards the right. So instead of thinking of rinsing your organs out like a wet dishcloth, instead lift long, make more space, use your inhale to get that length in your spine, and then the exhale to initiate the twist from the base up. So twisting first in the low back, then the mid and upper back, and then finally your neck could go. Oftentimes I actually just like to keep the head looking in the same direction as the heart. And then turn back to center. Just place your hands to your hips, point your elbows back, puff up your chest, and on an exhale, hinge forward, bow down, touch your hands to the floor. I often practice with two blocks beside me near the front of the mat. I like to do it, use these blocks in this position, Uttanasana, but also just to have handy for various poses throughout practice. I'm the person who goes to a class and takes as many blocks as is possible without looking terrible when other people don't get them. So if you have blocks, you're welcome to use them. On an inhale, lengthen the spine, lift up halfway. That could be hands to the tops of your shins. Push your knees forward, move your hips back. Try to get the slight arch in your low back. So the difference between lifting to a flat back, which is often said, and then actually lifting to a back bend shape, a little bit of an arch in the low back, looking forward. This is going to be healthier for the spine. Then place your hands to your hips. On an inhale, slowly rise up, reach your arms up into the air, hold your right wrist with your left hand and lean to the left. Get a nice side body stretch, lengthening through the right side rib cage. And then come up and hold your left wrist with your right hand and then lean over to the right. Tilt your ear to your shoulder, move the right side rib cage forward, the left side rib cage back. And then all the way back up. Clasp your hands behind your back, interlace your fingers. Bend your elbows, keep your wrists separated slightly. Push your arms straighter. Bend your knees. And then a bow forward over your legs. Keep a soft bend to your knees. Just using this as a gentle warm-up at this moment in time. As if someone was hooked onto your hands, pulling you up. Inhale, slowly rise, float your arms high into the air, and just a couple of guided sun salutations to begin. So on an exhale, bow down. Inhale, lengthen your spine, and then step your right foot back behind you. Pause here on fingertips into a lunge position. So adding a twist, this is where I might even use a block. Just keep your right hand on the floor. Place your left hand to your knee or hip. Twist, and then from there, float your arm towards the front of your mat, reaching it straight and long. Push your back leg straight, sink down low into your front leg. And then just pause for a few cycles of breath here so you have the twist, but at the same time you're building some strength and heat with the lunge. Not lunch, that might have been after or before this practice. Turn to the floor, bring your hand down, bring your other hand down, and then step back to plank pose. Here in plank pose, your choice, knees up or knees down. Just for the sake of practice, I'll go knees down. Lowering halfway for chaturanga, then lower your pelvis, point your toes, lift for a cobra position. Even here in the back bend, you can add a slight twist by just looking over your left shoulder and then looking over your right shoulder. And then push your way all the way back, downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And then without lifting your right leg back, just step your right foot forward. Pause in that lunge position. Staying stable first. Again, if you want to use a block, you're welcome to use a block. Hand to your knee or hip. Keep your left hip lifted. It'll tend to drop. So what'll happen is you just twist the whole body. So keep your left hip up. Stabilize the hips as you twist the shoulders. And then float your arm long towards the front, actively reach and stretch out. Okay, and then moving into a standing forward fold position, push off your back foot, bow over your legs. On an inhale, lengthen your spine, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, rise all the way up. And then exhale, dive forward again. Just one more set. Inhale, lengthen. This time step back with your left foot first. And then pausing here, instead of having the front knee bent, just push your front leg straighter. I like to use the blocks here. I'm less flexible than a lot of you. So just a variation of pyramid pose where you still have the long stance and your back heel lifted. And then notice the difference. If you just focus on rounding your spine, you may not get as intense of a stretch if you bend your front leg. Lift your sit bones up and then push your front leg straighter, trying to keep a little arch in your low back. And then it's just pause and hold here. Smile. Smile can turn the world upside down. I have no idea what that means, but hopefully it inspires you in some way. Step back, plank pose. This time, of course, you could have your knees up or down, your choice, but just seeing what knees lifted is harder to talk. And then lift for your back bend. Again, option to add the twist. So if you look over your right shoulder, try to keep your left shoulder back. And then look over your left shoulder, try to keep your right shoulder back. And then push back to downward facing dog. Deep breath in. And exhale it out. 2 more cycles of breath. And last one. And then step your left foot forward and rise onto fingertips or use the blocks. I put them to a pretty high setting. And then push your front leg straighter. So you may not go all the way to straight. Especially if you aren't going to straight, you probably already feel the stretch. You don't have to work quite as hard for it. You can use the blocks in a way to even dig and pull back towards the back foot to try to lengthen your spine and move the crown of your head forward. Get as much length as you can. Bowing is just extra if it feels great. If it doesn't feel great, then don't do it. Okay, and then push off of your back foot, step forward. Inhale, lengthen your spine. And exhale, bow in. Reverse swan dive, rise all the way up. And then bring your hands together. Bend your knees, sit down into chair position. So in chair twist, I actually like to go with the legs a little bit wider, even wider than the hips. And it'll be a twist to the left first, so just demonstrating. I'll often just hold the left knee with the right hand and left hand to the hip. Maybe even put my right elbow to the right knee and then twist that way. So the twist is maybe angled still towards the floor, not necessarily to the side wall. So that to me is a more accessible version of a twist. It also emphasizes more of the natural curve of the low back. So if you ever get any pinching in your back, that's probably a better place to twist. That's where I will tend to stay. I can go further is feet together, hooking the elbows, and then joining the hands together that way. You could do mime in a box, hands to the side, that side crow. We'll have an opportunity later in practice to go there. I don't like to hold that position for very long. I have to be right here. This feels great. Okay, on an inhale, untwist, rise up, lift your tiptoes, try to touch the ceiling, and then switch to the other side. Twist to your right. Again, hand to knee, hand to hip, or even low back. You can even use your right hand, grab your butt and lift it up. That is known as a mood enhancer. A smile turns the world upside down. That's what a wise person always says. Begin to twist to the right. Again, you could hook your elbow, join your hands together, whatever works for you. No one's judging you. You're not going to get a report card sent in the mail in a month from now. On an inhale, untwist. Reach the arms up high. And then exhale, dive forward. Halfway lift. And then step your right foot back behind you. And then rise up into crescent lunge position. In crescent lunge, join your hands together. Tilt forward, take a deep breath in. And then twist to your left. Hook your right elbow to the outside of your knee. I actually prefer a version where I make a fist with the lower hand and wrap the other hand over top, just like a ball and socket joint, like your thigh bone in your hip socket. And it's just a stronger position than this position is just weird, feels weird on the wrists. Sink down low and begin to twist. If you want to spread your wings or go for a bind, go for that. If you also want to twist less, you can just have hand to knee and hand to hip. So lots of different options. On an inhale, untwist, reach your arms up into the air, and then just adding a little bit extra here, tilt forward at a 45-degree angle, push your arms straight. So just building some extra heat just by holding the position. Staying strong, staying steady, and then touch your hands down, step forward, and step back. Stepping back on an inhale, rise up, float your arms up, and then bringing your hands together, tilt forward. Take a deep breath in, and it's a twist towards the right this time. So hook your left elbow to the outside of your knee. Again, option to adjust hand position as needed. Notice the left hip drops, so try to keep the left hip lifted. Wrap your right butt under, twist from left to right. And then on an inhale, untwist, float your arms up in the air, staying steady, and then tilt forward. Push your arms straight. Try to line your spine with your back leg so you're at a 45-degree angle, purely just about building some heat and fire in your front leg. One last breath in, and then touch your hands down and step back to plank pose. Step your left foot a little bit forward, turn both feet to the left, and then bring your left hand to your hip for a variation of side plank position. Emphasize the twist. You can even use your left hand underneath the right side body to twist yourself further to the left. and then float your arm up into the air. Or a version I like is actually even reaching the arm forward, like I'm aspiring to grab that ice cream that's in the store freezer, but I don't want to touch the freezer door. I don't want to do it. One last breath in. Turn to the floor, hand down, step back plank pose. Nothing fancy, just step your right foot a little bit forward. Turn both feet to the right. Side plank, balancing on the left hand. Again, you can twist yourself further towards the right. Arm up into the air. Or bicep over your ear. Reach and extend. Long, full stretch. Okay, then plant your hands down, staying in plank, just going through a flow, knees up or knees down, lower down halfway, lift for your back bend. Could even be a low cobra position, or of course upward facing dog where you lift your pelvis and your thighs, and then push back, downward facing dog. In down dog, open your feet a little bit wider, bend your knees, lift your heels, and then turn your feet to the left. Tilt your right ear to your right shoulder. So a version of twisted dog. In the bowspring world, this one's actually called twisted cat, which is confusing because it's very similar to dog, but dogs and cats are very similar. They're both pets. Well, that's probably where the similarities end. Come back up and then drop your heels to the left, feet turn to the right, and option to pulse. So it's a twist because the hips now are turning, but the shoulders stay fairly square towards the floor. I guess they both have fur too. Attitudinally, they're quite different. Come back to center, and then just step your right foot forward, turn your left foot to the left, rise up, forearm to your thigh, and then just pausing in a bit easier version of side angle position. If you want to go further, you'll have an opportunity in a moment. The challenge of this pose sometimes is people don't get the twist in. So use your left hand, hold the outside of the right waist, and then begin to twist. Get a good twist. Twist your torso, twist your chest, move your shoulder back, and then swing your arm towards the front. If you want to go lower, go for a bind, touch your hand down. If you have a block and you want to put your hand to your block, do that. Sometimes it's tough enough just holding the base form. Good enough. Options to switch to the second side. I'm going to challenge you. More difficult is add a push-up in, or you can just step forward, step back, or go to down dog and just switch sides. So push-up is plank, lower down, lift back up, push back, and step left foot forward. So it should be right foot back, left foot forward. If you did the other side on the first side, just do the opposite side. If you do the same side and you're looking in the same direction, then just switch. Good news is we only have two sides. Good news is most of us only have two sides. Move your shoulders back. Take your right hand, hold the underside of your left waist, twist fully, and then reach the arm long. Sometimes you see the arm up in the pose. I'm a bigger fan of arm alongside you. It's side angle pose, extended side angle pose, where you actively reach and stretch fully. It's not just like kind of side angle pose, which this feels like. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, one more full breath in, and then turn to the floor, hand down, step back, plank pose. Tricky one here, not side plank. This one's just twisted plank. So here in plank pose, turn both feet to the left. The shoulders stay stable, but the hips twist to the left. Pause and hold. A lot of times I'm usually happy to stay here. You can do twisted chaturanga, where you keep your feet like that and then do a push-up and then lift back up and then just switch to the other side. So drop your heels to the left. Not easy, especially doing the push-up. Makes it quite a lot more difficult. English language harder speak now by me because of twisted plank. And then option to do the chaturanga.
and then regular plank and push back. Step your right foot forward, bring your back heel down, but have your foot pointing towards the front left corner of the mat. Or if you're in a yoga studio, it's that front left corner. So it's setting up more for warrior one position, hands to your hips. And it's not really a twist pose, but more than anything, just focusing on getting a bit of a stretch for the back leg here. So do your best to square your hips, square your chest to the front, and then from there, float your arms high into the air. I like having a bit of space between the hands, but you're welcome to bring the hands together. Go hands totally flat or interlaced fingers and reach up high. Sink down low. Working towards getting your front thigh parallel to the floor. And then up to you to just switch to the second side or add an extra flow. So step back plank, lower down halfway, lift for your back bend, and then push it back. And then left foot forward, bring your right heel down, rise up, hands to hips. And sometimes what does happen is that your body angles off a little bit to the right in this pose. So doing your best to square the hips to the front, and in particular squaring the chest to face forward and arms up in the air. If you have another version that you like to do, where you hold on to a wrist or interlace your fingers, go for it. You might have palms forward. I sometimes like actually to rotate the arms so the palms face back. Just explore, experiment, get creative. No flow on this one. Instead, hands down and step forward. Just be a little bit away from the very front of your mat and sit down into a squat position. Okay, we're doing great here. So some will stay in squat. You might even stay a little bit upright, have your heels lifted, or even sit on a block if it's a bit challenging to be in a squat position. The other option is for the arm balancers, going for just regular crow to begin with. So hands down, bend your elbows, put your shins to your upper arms, lean forward into your hands, and then pause and hold, hold, hold. Squeeze in, hold. If you're in squat pose, you chose wisely, very wisely, not easy. And then lower your feet, squat. Touch your hands down, and then push your legs straighter. Take a step back with your right foot, lower your knee, place your left hand to your thigh, and reach your right arm up into the air. Use the hand pushing down to get a lot of length through your body, and then twist fully to the left. I'll often use my left hand, grab my six-pack, lift it up and over the right thigh, and then rejoin the hands here. And the advantage of having your knee down is that you can explore different variations of this twist that we did earlier with the knee lifted. You might go with the spread your wings or go for a bind. Again, I used to be able to do those, and I chose to actually move away from them. And part of that was a recognition that wasn't working for my body. It's also called aging. On an inhale, untwist, touch your hands down, step forward and step back. So just same, right hand to your thigh. I like to point the back toes, but then pull the toes in so the front of the ankle lifts. Right hand to thigh, lift your left arm up. Use the leverage, get long, and then even move your knee to the left as you hook the elbow to the outside of the knee. You could always twist less. Looks just like that. Feels great. Especially if you're practicing for two. You've got a creature in your belly. Option, hand over top. And actually if you're practicing and pregnant, probably a twist practice isn't necessarily the best practice to focus on, just because that's something that you want to give lots of space to and not necessarily rinse out. Sink a little bit lower, move your hips down, your front knee forward. Nothing fancy, just going back to the first side. So if you just love your flows, you're always welcome to add them in. They can just take up a lot of time. It'd be quite efficient to just step forward, step back. This time, keep your right hand down. I like to use a block on this one and then lift your back foot, grab hold of your thigh. If you're pretty flexible, which I'd say really flexible, you can always use the block to put your knee on and then hold on there. And it starts to make a difference when you get down lower towards the floor like that. That's where I need my, my drool towel underneath if I'm going to survive. Some folks might not be able to get even to the foot, so you might end up just in a position like this, or just trying to reach and grab the foot. So just do your best. It's a pretty intense pose for some. I've seen people use a strap to lasso the foot and then pull it in as well. Okay, and then second side. So step forward, step back, knee down, and then twist to the right. Lift your left foot, grab hold of your foot, twist to the right, pull your heel in. My rule is usually I have to touch my heel to my butt, and then I'll think about going lower. Nice thing about a block is you got options. So there's the highest setting of the block with the elbow, and then the middle setting. That's the Goldilocks just right one. And then the lowest setting. And then you may actually be able to get down to the lowest setting. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Today is one of those magic days. Okay, and then release. And then nothing fancy, just switch legs. This time keep your back knee lifted. I like to use the blocks for this. It's Parsvottanasana, often referred to as pyramid pose. I actually like to practice with my back heel lifted. The true position is back heel down, like Warrior One. We've done both positions. One, we did the crescent high twist with the heel lifted, and then we did Warrior One with the heel down. So up to you. I just find it's a little bit easier for me to get the long spine, one of the focuses of twist principles that I mentioned at the very beginning. Then bend both knees, grab hold of your butt and lift it up. Try to get a little arch in your low back. And then from there, push your front leg straighter. And I'll go even crazier sometimes and put 2 blocks on top of each other and practice like that. And no joke, that actually feels even better for me because I can stay upright. And the reason there is sometimes less is more. I tried to convince my high school math teachers about that, but they didn't always approve. Okay, now keep the position of your legs, but place your left hand to your hip, and specifically your thumb can actually tack the top of the thigh bone back. Make a twist to the left, and then from there you can stay as you are or lift your arm up or reach it forward. You could even go for that higher setting of the block and twist that way. And actually that one feels great for me. I might do a combination where it's a little bit more stable on the lower block and go like that. So find what works, what might be unique and different. Okay, and then turn to the floor, and then just step forward, step back, and then pyramid pose, Parsvottanasana, often translated as intense standing hamstring stretch. So I get that one for sure. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I would name it, especially if I keep the arch in my low back and then I bow in. Again, you can modify and go up a little bit higher. Holding strong, you could have your back heel down. Bringing the back heel down actually lessens any stretch for me. So it's an opportunity to be more grounded. If you're flexible, that might feel great to feel more grounded. The reality is we're all different shapes, different experiences, different injuries. We all have to explore and find what makes us feel better. I'm a big believer that it shouldn't be painful, sometimes uncomfortable or challenging stretch, but it shouldn't hurt. And then keep your left hand down or on a block right hand to your hip. Thumb tacks the top of your thigh bone back. The thigh bone is the leg bone. So you can put your thumb into that and tack it back. Stabilize, squeeze your butt in. So you stabilize your hips and then twist to the right. Again, you can go arm up or arm forward. Oftentimes I just like to keep the hand to the hip. Doesn't have to twist much further. Holding solid. Okay, and then turn to the floor and step back to plank pose. Deep breath in and deep breath out. And push back down dog. Bring your feet together at the back of your mat. Move halfway forward to plank. Turn your feet to the left. Balance on your right hand for side plank position. Lift your left arm up into the air. If you want to do a kickstand, go for it, or lower your right knee. Go for it. So just lots of options. Holding strong. And then switching to the other side, turn your feet to the right. Balance on your left hand. Reach your arm up. Twist your chest to the right. Stay active, steady, and strong in your left hand, your left arm, your left shoulder. And then turn to the floor. Step your left foot forward and then push off of the back foot, lift it into the air. I like to use a block on this one so it can be right hand stays down, left hand to the hip. So revolved half moon pose, twist to the left. Option even to bend your right knee and grab hold of the foot. We did this one in the lunge position. If you hold the foot, lift your back knee higher, kick your foot back into your hand, twist further to the left, and then finally push your front leg straighter. Extra points, because it's all about points, to rise up into reverse dancers momentarily, and then lower back down, so look like this, to rise up, and then to lower down. And then just switch legs, pretty simple. Foot down, switch hands, and lift your left leg up. Twist to the right, stay here, or bend your knee, grab hold of your foot, kick your foot into your hand, twist further to the right, lift your knee higher, move your shoulder back, and then as you twist further, push your front leg straighter, or option to rise up into the reverse dancer's position, kicking your foot back, tilt forward, and then hinge down, and then both feet down. Step one foot back, then lower your knee, then the other foot back, lower your knee, and sit back onto your heels. And this is the chance in practice that there'll be a few options. So if you're looking for mellow, you can just stay sitting on your heels and hand to knee and twist. So I'm just going to show these things quick. If you want that, go for that. If you want something a little bit more intense, I like the squat with the heels lifted position, but you could twist like that or even add a bind as you see fit in a squat. And then the next option is to go into side crow. So side crow would be kind of what you did with crow, but instead turn your knees over, in this case to the left, and then I hook up the one thigh with the left elbow, right elbow stays free, and then from there lean and lift. And then there's variations as well that you can do with that one. Okay, so 3 options. I'll tell you about when it's the halfway point. Can be pretty simple. I'll demonstrate another angle of the side crow position as well. but jump into it, especially if you're doing one of the simpler ones. So just seeing the side crow one from the back, what often happens is people use both elbows to prop up the body. It's actually easier in terms of not twisting as far as if you keep one elbow free. And then instead of just trying to lift up into it, move your feet way to the outside of the one hand, the elbow that supports up the thigh, and then lean your weight to the free hand to lift up, and then pause and hold there. It takes a lot less strength than regular Bakasana. It's quite surprising. If you haven't twisted to the second side, twist to the second side. If you're going for that arm balance, add a few different variations. Try to kick both legs out to the side, or have the lower leg go out to the side and the upper leg go back behind you. The leg split out to the side is called Ekapada Kundanyasana 1. And then both legs out to the side is called Dvipada Kundanyasana. Kundanyasana just means the pose to honor the sage Kundanya. Doesn't have a fancy English interpretation. Maybe you can come up with it. Write it in the comments. Then just come back to a seated position. I like having a block when I'm doing seated poses, specifically twists as well. This first one's pretty simple. Extend your left leg straight. Bend your right knee, bring your foot flat. It's just a Marichyasana 1 prep position. So left hand behind you, reach your right arm up into the air, add some flare. Flare looks like this. And then twist. Elbow to the inside of your knee. Deep breath in. And then twist further. Make your spine long. In this case, the hips aren't going to move because you're sitting, so that you've got that benefit. And then twist from the base up. So the belly doesn't twist very much. Then the ribs twist. The neck can twist a lot. Just notice if you then are going overboard with that. And just look in the same direction as your chest. Let your jaw be relaxed. And then go back to center and switch legs. Right leg forward, left knee bends, foot flat, right hand behind you. Add the flare and twist. It's nice. It's nice to add a little bit more enjoyment, especially if you haven't talked to anyone in 2 to 3 weeks or months. As you twist, hug your knee into your elbow and push your elbow back into your knee. Use that to get a lift up. Even try to have your low back move in towards your spine so there's a little arch in your low back versus a rounded position. Okay, and then back to center. Just bring the bottoms of your feet together. Baddha Konasana. Either hold your feet and sit up tall or hinge forward and hook your elbows to the front of your shins. This is just the crow position. Put your hands like that, and that's crow pose, just in a different plane. Not like an aeroplane, but like 3-dimensional plane. Okay, and then keep your left leg as is, slide your right leg long, pull your heel in front of your pubic bone, and then turn over your right leg and bow forward. So it is a twist. If you want to go further, you can hold your ankle or shin and then just twist further to the right as you bow in. So the further you bow, probably the less you should twist. The more upright you are, the healthier it is for the spine to twist. And specifically when I say the spine, it's the discs that are between each one vertebra and another. Okay, and then come back up and just switch. Left leg out, right leg in. Turn over your leg and bow forward. And this might be enough for you, or you can hold on to the ankle or shin and just add a little bit more twist. More advanced, you could probably hook your elbow to the outside of your knee, hold your foot, and then reach up and over. There's a lot more advanced people than myself. So you're always welcome to do that. It's the seated hip openers and twists that keep me humble, because it's very hard for me to progress much further, and that's just the reality. Need to go back in time to when I was in kindergarten and really like hammer on myself to get those hips open. Or the reality being just do the best you can and stay within your natural range of motion. Okay, coming back up, just swing your left leg back so that you can easily move your way to all fours position. Pose where you keep the hips fixed, particularly the right hip stays back. Slide your right arm underneath, bring your right shoulder to the floor, look to the left, just a gentle twist. And then lift up and switch. Slide your left arm underneath, left shoulder to the floor. Keep your hips back, twist your chest from left to right. Okay, then make your way back up. Tuck your toes, lift your knees, turn your knees over to the left. Reach your arm long and just roll onto your back. Cross your right ankle over your left thigh. And then hug your knee in. And then pulling the knee, use your one elbow to push your knee off to the side. Okay, then lower your foot, shift your hips a little bit to the left, and then drop your leg over to the side so that the knee points up. Okay, and then just switch legs, going to thread the needle on the other side. And then dropping your leg over so your foot comes down and the knee points up. And at this point, not really forcing any twists. You've made the space for your organs. Are they happy and cleared out any clutter, any extra furniture, anything you've been hoarding, holding, grasping, clinging to? Come back up to center. Just hug both knees in. And then release it out. Final resting position, Shavasana. Letting go of the things you don't need anymore, which may be more of the rinsing and the detoxifying effect of twists within yoga. Mental twists or emotional twists. All those thoughts that keep creeping into your head, especially when you're trying to sleep at night, just let them wash away, rinse away. And instead let that space be taken by more important things, like your own health, the vitality and functionality of your own organs. Bring your attention to those areas that matter deeply to you. And in that space of recognition, relax completely. Let go of any intentional breath and slip away.